Today's guest is someone who truly redefined what's possible in real estate investing. Jeremy Beland went from facing homelessness, dropping out of high school, and nearly losing everything during the 2008 recession to building a 7-figure real estate business. Since going all in 2017, he's completed over 450 off-market deals and generated around $10 million in gross profits. But most importantly, he's helped over 3,000 people change their lives through real estate. His mission is simple: help others achieve financial freedom. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
If you're investing,
investors will.
The podcast for all things real estate investing.
Hi, Jeremy. So it's a pleasure having you on today on Investor One-on-One. For our audience who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do today?
Yeah, my name's Jeremy Beland. I live up here in New Hampshire. You may hear my thick Boston accent come out from time to time. I'm just north of Boston, so I have a pretty strong Boston accent. I'm going to be 50 years old this year, which is crazy. I started my journey when I turned 40. Actually sold everything I had, which was basically a townhouse at that point, to join a coaching program with Tom Kroll. Learned wholesaling back in 2016, 2017. But we're in our 10th year of buying houses, and we still wholesale, but not like we used to. We're more of a house buyer these days. Over the last 10 years in multiple markets, we've done over 500 off-market transactions that have successfully closed. And we flip, we burn, we wholesale, we do wholesales, we do novations, we do all that exit strategies, but we're experts at finding off-market deals. That's kind of what we specialize in. And then with that, we run a coaching program called REI Freedom, where we teach people how to become experts at acquiring off-market properties as well, and teaching them how to run a professional and profitable business in the process.
Awesome, Jeremy, man. 500 is crazy. For our investors that are watching this right now, why is off-market so important?
Well, that's where all the good deals are, right? We can control the outcome of those off-market deals. So for us, as we know in real estate, it's all about just finding the right deals, right? You have to find the right deals. And it's hard to do that on the MLS.
I agree.
Deals are few and far between. How about selling on the MLS? Never going to buy it on the MLS. And, it becomes a bidding war, and the numbers just don't really work out. But if you create off-market marketing programs like, pay-per-leads and things of that nature, there's a bunch of great marketing channels out there, then you can create opportunities where leads come in. And if you get really good at knowing how to talk to sellers on the phone and in person, you can then qualify those leads, turn them into appointments, turn those appointments into contracts. And then once you have those contracts, then you can decide what's the best exit strategy, right? Do you want to wholesale it? Do you want to flip it? Do you want to take it down, clean it out, and immediately relist it? Is it a novation? Is it something that you want to turn into a rental? So what's great about off-market acquisitions is I have multiple properties coming into my business every single month. And then I just decide from a business perspective and a personal perspective, what's the best exit strategy out of this house? Now, if I'm buying properties on the MLS, I'm going to be very limited with those options.
I agree. And how are you finding your off-market leads today? And from your experience, what source is the most successful for you?
Yeah, we've tried almost everything under the sun. And I will say what works for me may not work for you. What works in my market may not necessarily work in your market. Now, I've been successful in many markets, or a few markets, and I've been unsuccessful in some other markets. And one thing that I learned during that time is not all marketing works, but some marketing performs better in different markets. Now, we're really dialed in with our acquisitions. We have really skilled acquisition guys with a lot of experience. So we're really good at our conversion. We don't need a lot of leads to convert them to deals. So with that being said, we use more inbound marketing channels that give us better quality leads, but we typically pay a premium for them. What you'll find in our New Hampshire and Massachusetts and Rhode Island market these days is a little bit of outgoing text messaging, but mostly we run off TV ads and PPC and SEO. And
Gotcha.
PPC has probably been our number one marketing channel in all the markets that we've been doing for the last 10 years. It's been very consistent for us.
Yeah, it's been consistent for us as well, no doubt. Now let's go back a little bit in time. You've done over 500 deals. Can you tell us more about your first deal, how you got that and everything around it?
Sure. You can see right over my head, this is a check. That's my very first deal. It's a $5,000 check.
That.
That happened March of 2017. on my 40th birthday, September of 2016, I really wanted to get into wholesaling, and I was a divorced dad of 2 kids. I was doing okay. I was making 6 figures as a salesperson, but I just, I've been through a lot of, times where I was really broke. I lost almost everything in the Great Recession. My family lost everything as a child. And I just felt like as I was going into my 40s, I needed something better. I wanted to get into real estate, didn't know how to approach it. I had no money, didn't know how to use other people's money. As much as I wanted to buy rentals or flips, it just didn't seem realistic to me. So I thought, well, if I can get into wholesaling and learn how to acquire off-market deals, maybe it'll open up those avenues later down the line. And sure enough, it did. And I knew about wholesaling, but I said, I'm going to get a mentor. And I was listening to Tom Kroll out of Port St. Lucie, Florida back in the day. He ran Wholesaling Inc. Brian Daniels runs it today. And he was just a magnetic character and personality. And I listened to his podcast and had analysis paralysis for a year. Then I decided, I'm going to join his coaching program. It was $5,000 to sign up. Plus you needed money to start your marketing, which back then was direct mail for us. I didn't have that money. So I actually sold my townhouse and moved my kids into a crappy little 2-bedroom apartment. It was
Wow.
all the money that I had. It was basically $17,000 in equity. And I took 11,000 of that and I started my business. 5,000 went to the coaching program. $6,000 went into setting up my contracts with the attorneys, setting up my LLC. Basically, pulling some lists from List Source and sending out marketing channels, which was direct mail. It was little white handwritten postcards. That coaching program taught me how to get my first deal done within 90 days. So we started January 2017, and by the end of March, we got our first deal. I completely screwed it up so many ways, but because I was honest and transparent and had multiple negotiations to reduce the price, it finally got a deal done and, made the $5,000. The money obviously was great, but it was more the proof of concept that, wow, this actually works. I can do this too. We went on that year to do only 10 deals at $73,000, but the foundation of the business was born. That first year was pretty rocky. That coaching program was great to teach you how to wholesale your first deal, but it did not teach you how to rinse and repeat, how to get really good at acquisitions, how to get good at dispositions. It didn't teach you any of that stuff. So a lot of that I had to learn on my own and seek out other mentorship along the way to get me better. We talked about me being able to do 500 plus deals since I started this. Well, I'll tell you, it's because I spent $350,000 during these 10 years on ongoing mentorship, masterminds, and things of that nature, not just for me, but for team members as well along the way. It's been a big part of our development and growth to become who we are today.
Man, that's an inspiring story. It shows that it's never too late to start something and grow and be successful in it. And, you brought up that you specialize in acquisition and disposition. For investors watching this, what are some tips you can give us that are helping investors scale versus investors that just stay at the same spot?
One of the things you got to do is, you got to keep getting better, right? So a lot of times what I hear is, well, I know how to talk to people. I'm good with sales. Well, it's great. Selling, business to business, is a lot different than selling things with a distressed seller. Well, not that we're really selling things, but, when we're working with the niche of distressed sellers, those communications, those objections, those challenges are very different than what you would do if you were selling insurance to somebody or solar to somebody, or you were selling some kind of manufacturing equipment to a business, right? Those are very different types of conversations. So what I realized over time is that the acquisition skills to take your leads and convert them to deals that actually close, that is a skill set you need to learn, and it takes time, years to master, right? So if you gave somebody who is relatively new, or maybe somebody who's been doing it for years, done like 10 deals, right? You can give them 70 leads. They may get 1 or 2 deals out of those 70 leads. Me, I could probably turn them into 4 or 5 deals, right? So my costs to generate those 70 leads are the same, but I'm able to convert much more money and revenue and opportunity out of them than somebody who does not have the same communication and sales skills related to off-market acquisitions as we do. So that's a big part of it. So getting really better at those. And then marketing, you're a marketing company, marketing is one of the most challenging parts of this business. All marketing channels work, but they all have their pros and cons. I don't care which ones they are. And you really need to optimize your marketing and optimizing your conversion while maximizing revenue. So there's all these areas of optimization, but everybody wants to do everything right away and scale fast, fast, fast. The reality is you need to slow it down, which is not easy for me either, by the way. And just these little improvements over time, right? We're just going to make this work a little bit better, get this conversion a little bit better, make a cost go down a little bit, make a revenue per deal go up, right? But the compound effect over time will yield great results. So, getting people on the right seat on the bus is great, but, really understanding your marketing, tracking those KPIs and working on improving your conversions can really make the difference of, doing a handful of deals a year to a handful of deals a month.
I couldn't agree more. And like you said, this isn't a B2B business. We're talking with distressed sellers. So do you have any negotiation skills or anything that you could share with us that helps you close more than the average seller?
Yeah. I will say we call it sales, but it really isn't sales, right? So, the experienced people that are listening, they know all this already. But the reality is we're either a fit or we're not. So one of the things we want to do is just identify if we're a fit, let's try to do business. If we're not a fit, there's no reason trying to push this person into doing business with us because it's only going to result in a cancellation most likely anyway. So one of the things that we like to do is, and I'll just give you an idea, right? So when our lead comes in, we have 3 different systems in our business, and this is what we teach our coaching program as well. One is your script. So when a lead comes in, we have a very specific script to qualify that lead, right? There's certain things that we want to know, but most importantly, is there motivation and equity? And if there's motivation and equity, we're setting up that appointment. That script keeps us very consistent with qualifying leads that come in. And that also gets us ahead of certain objections that are pretty commonplace in our industry for that appointment. We know these objections are coming, so we're asking premeditated questions on that script to get ahead of that. So when we come up with an appointment, we can then go back to saying, hey, when we spoke to you on the phone, blah, 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 blah. Then we run our appointments a very specific way as well, right? So we're very consistent how we run our appointments. That's system number 2. And when it comes to wholesaling properties, we have a specific way of doing that, and that's system number 3. When you systemize all that across the board, it's like McDonald's, right? If you get a Big Mac in Florida, New Hampshire, Belgium, right? That Big Mac is the same because it's prepared in the same way. So the more we can systemize how we qualify leads, systemize how we run our appointments, systemize how we sell on properties, the more consistent we can be. And that will allow us to yield better results. But here's a couple of things that I will say. When it comes to appointments, here's a couple little tricks that we like to do. So when we first get to an appointment, right, most sellers want to show us around the house, right? We don't want to look around the house. I don't want to look around the house for 45 minutes to an hour. So what we do is we'll say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, hey, thank you for having us over today. Before we take a look around your house, is there a place we could sit down and talk? You told me a little bit about your situation on the phone the other day. I'd like to learn a little bit more about that. This will allow me to provide you a better offer. Does that sound okay to you? And they're like, oh, you're going to send me a better offer? Yeah, sure, sit down. We don't like to sit down in a kitchen, if you can, because it becomes a little more formal, like me sitting at the desk. If we can get to a point where we're sitting in a living room and the arms are kind of like this and everybody, that gives it a little bit more of a casual, laid back and less of like this business meeting, more just people chilling out talking, right? We want to create that vibe. And then when we sit down, I say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, hey, listen, thank you so much for meeting with me again today. I appreciate you sitting down and talking with me. I just want to let you know, we're probably not going to do business together today. I'm hoping that we are, and I'm here in an effort to do so, but chances are we're probably not going to do business together. Chances are we're probably not even the right fit for each other. I've been doing this long enough to know that I'm not the right fit for everybody, and I'm likely not the right fit for you. So at any point during this conversation, you feel like this doesn't work for you, just say, hey, Jeremy, this isn't one for me, and I'll politely excuse myself. Does that sound fair to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Yes, that sounds great. Great. Now I'm going to do a little pull away. All right, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. On the other hand, I may realize this doesn't actually work for me either. And if I feel like it doesn't work for me, would it be okay if I say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this isn't working for me, and I politely excuse myself? Does that sound fair? Yes. All right. So what we've done just with those things, right? We set the precedent that we want to sit down and talk and get more about the information, learn more about the information, which is a point. Because when they show us around the house, we sit around, they show us all around the house, Then we sit down and talk, and it starts to feel a little bit more like a negotiation. What's your offer? What's your offer? We're trying to prevent that what's your offer situation. Now we go sit down in the living room, create a relaxed environment, and now I'm disarming them because they have this preconceived notion, most likely, that this investor's coming in here to lowball me. All he's going to try to do is buy my house and steal from me as low as possible. And I'm getting ready to this negotiation battle, right? If it's a negotiation and they're coming from a place of defense, we can't have an open, constructive conversation to see if we're even the right fit, right? We need to know through, asking a lot of questions, transparency, and getting them to open up to something that they may feel insecure and vulnerable about the situation to us, to really see if we're the right fit and can we provide value to them. So we're disarming them, saying, hey, we're not even going to do business together today. Hope we do, but probably not even the right fit. Now, instead of being like, all right, I'm getting ready for this negotiation, they're like, okay, let's just talk, right? And now nobody's coming from a place of defense. Now we can be like, all right, so tell me more about your situation, right? And then what we do from there is we call this intelligence gathering, right? I want to ask some questions. I make them feel in control of the conversation by allowing them to talk. Like I'm talking right now. It sounds like I feel in control of this podcast, right? Even though it's your podcast, you're in control. I do the same thing on our appointments. I'm asking specific questions, getting them to talk. I'm listening, right? I'm guiding them through a journey to come to this self-realization that they either want to do business with me or they don't. And by asking these questions, I'm getting information out. And it may be something that's like, we're really overwhelmed because we have so much stuff here. We've been wanting to move, but we don't even know where to start. We've been living here for 40 years. Oh, okay. So Mr. Seller, if you are able to, let me ask you this, if you're able to just take what you wanted and leave everything behind, is that something that would benefit you or probably not? Right? This is me providing a solution to that problem, some value that they may or may not know about, by just asking them a question. Would this be beneficial to you? Probably not. And their head, they're going, yeah. And I'm trying to do this numerous times through the intelligence gathering phase. And at the end of it, when we took those to go look around the house and go to sit down, they've either decided that I want to do business with this person or I don't. And if they want to do business with us, then it's not so much a negotiation where we're drawing a line in the sand to see who can cross. It's more of a collaboration. They're like, hey, Jeremy, I want to do business with you. You can solve, this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem. I didn't even know those were things that we could do here. I really hope we can find a number that works for both of us to get this deal done. So rather than coming from a place of defense and drawing a line in the sand, now they're coming from a place of, I want to work with you and get a deal done. It completely changes the talking over the price, right? And haggling and stuff. It just allows us to get deals at a much better price for ourselves as well.
I love that. Keeping it human, keeping it real, listening, making them feel like they're a part of the business, not just someone that you're going after. So that's some great
Yeah.
tips. And let's say, for you, is it just price when it comes to getting a deal, or do you have like a criteria or a filter that you go through whenever you buy different properties?
So here we believe in lock it up as low as possible, right? Within reason, right? So obviously, if the ARV is $400,000 and they want 380 and the house needs a ton of work, obviously it's not a right fit, right? But
Exactly.
say ideally, here are some, I don't really believe in the 70% minus repair value. If you're a wholesaler, listen to this, your job is not to know repair costs. You don't need to know how much floor costs, how much roofing costs, painting costs. What you need to do is get better at getting leads and converting those leads to close contracts. So get better at the business of sales. Let rehabbers decide, because every rehabber has a different cost and a different idea what they want to do with that property. One investor may say that's a $20,000 rehab. Somebody else may say it's a $100,000 rehab, or anywhere in between. Don't get caught up in that. So we just believe in locking up as low as possible. So ideally, if it's a flip, your typical flip type house or your typical burr, we really want to be buying those things 50 to 60% of the ARV, and that will factor in all the other costs, like rehab costs that comes with it. if it's a fire damaged house or a flooded house or just something that's a complete tear down, we're probably somewhere around 20 to 30 cents of that ARV, right? 30% of that ARV. And, we buy a lot of nice houses too, that are turnkey, that don't need anything. We typically want to try to buy those between 70 to 80% of that ARV. We typically just buy them, clean them out, immediately relist them. We call that a wholesale. So those are some quick criteria numbers we try to beat. But, for the sake of this discussion, or, if we're have a deal that comes in and we're at, I don't know, let's just say 225,000, right? And that's 60% of the ARV. But this guy won't take less than 250 and we're $25,000 off. I'm going to lock that up. It's only going to cost me a little bit of time and $100 EMD. And I'm going to put it through our disposition process, especially as a wholesaler. It may not work for me to take down personally as a wholesale or a flip, but I'm going to put it through a wholesale process. And I'm going to put it in front of thousands of buyers. I'm going to do a one-time open house inspection walkthrough. I'm going to get as many people in there as I can, and I'm going to have them bid it. And we may get no offers, or we may get 10. I don't know. But I've had a lot of people in our coaching program that were walking away from deals where they thought they were $20,000 a pot. Only to say, I went and got I locked it up anyway because, you're my coach, you told me to. And then once we put it through the disposition process and had that open house and had 15 investors come through, we ended up making $40,000 on that house, right? A house they would have walked away from because they thought $20,000 was too much, only turned around to make $40,000. So we never know where people's numbers are going to be. So I don't want to get hung up on that because that creates analysis paralysis and prevents a lot of people from doing deals. Now, if you're taking down the house yourself to, flip or wholesale, then, you need to make sure your numbers are more dialed in. But it's never going to be a perfect deal. I'd rather make a little bit off of a lot than make a lot off of a little, if that makes sense, right? I'm not trying to do 1 or 2 great deals a year. I'm doing 40, 50 deals a year that are adequate, and some of them are home runs. Some of them are base hits or bunts at best,
Exactly. Let's talk a little bit more about your deals. You're investing right now in what states?
New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Florida, and I'm buying some turnkey rentals in Jackson, Mississippi, of all places.
And out of all those markets, what would you say right now is best performing? And can you share a deal with us, some numbers?
Well, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, it's a smaller market. The greater metro Boston area, smaller market, highly competitive now, not like it was when I started 10 years ago. There's a lot of us around now, and marketing costs are super high up here. Like pay-per-click, super, super high. Pay-per-lead, super, super high. So it's really, really high. So you need to make sure you're converting these high marketing, high cost marketing channels. But there's still a lot of low inventory, and there's still plenty of deals to go around. So it's converting really well. Whereas Florida, specific parts of Florida do well, where specific parts of Florida aren't doing well. We don't really see that around here. So I would say the New Hampshire, Massachusetts market, even Rhode Island, the New England market is still performing really, really well overall. And we just got a deal. We're closing on it this week. Knock on wood. I hate to talk about a deal before it actually closes, but this is a typical deal of what we do in my business. So we got a deal, it's property through one of our direct marketing channels. I'm not sure which one it was, TV or PPC. My acquisition guy went out and locked it up. The ARV on this house, I want to say it was about 350, 370. City water, sewer, base ranch, 3-bed, 2-bath, or 3-bed, 1-bath house. And it was completely neglected. The guy lived down in the Carolinas, let this house go. The pipes broke throughout the winter. The flood in the house, ruined all the floors. Complete guy. But we got it for $106,000. That's 30 cents on the dollar. And I bought it. I closed on it within 10 days because I knew we had a great deal. Closed on it within 10 days. I sent my clean out guy there to basically clean out all the stuff out of the house, got the cars out of the yard, and, then we threw it on the market with our realtor for the MLS. And within 2 weeks of after we closed it, less than 2 weeks after, let's just say within 2 weeks of actually getting it under contract, we were already under contract with an end buyer now that we own it. And if everything goes to fruition after all of our costs, we're looking at about $125,000 net on this. And we never had to do any construction. All we had to do was clean it up. I could have wholesaled it and probably still done well, but typically when I come across a deal like this, I prefer to have control of it. So I'm going to buy it with other people's money, private lenders, as quickly as possible, take it down, clean it, throw it on the MLS, because the more deals you get out on the MLS, like I said, not a great place to buy, great place to sell. People came rushing in and creating up bidding more. And within 8 hours, we had to shut it down because we had so many people fighting over it. And we got a number that is going to make us 125 net after closing costs on both sides, after real estate commissions, after holding costs and lender costs, and after my clean out costs.
That's wild, man. That's amazing. Love to hear that. Jeremy, you work with a bunch of investors because you're a coach, wholesalers. What are you seeing these days, like the biggest mistakes that our investors are making?
Good question. I think the lack of mentorship in this industry is prevalent, and I can't wrap my head around it. Everybody just thinks because they can go watch things on YouTube or ask ChatGPT, everybody can be a successful wholesaler. Reality is like, less than 10% of people who become wholesalers even get their first deal. And it's even less than that. It's like 1 to 2% will even make it to like a year of doing deals. Mentorship's been a huge part. And I think a lot of people just feel like, I don't want to spend the money. I shouldn't have to spend the money. I could do it on myself for free, but they don't understand the time and energy and marketing costs it wastes along the way, rather than just investing into somebody teaching them how to do it much more efficiently, quicker, prevent all those mistakes, and they can just get a better ROI in that. But I think the mindset there it's been really mind blowing for me, because even well before I became a coach, I just, if I needed a mentor, I went out going. When I wanted to learn about private money, I went and found a private money coach. When I wanted to learn how to become a CEO in this business, I found a CEO coach, right? I was always willing to spend money to be taught things because I wanted to get better. But a lot of people don't feel that same sentiment that I do. So I think that's one big issue. The other issue is two things I would say is, one is analysis paralysis. People are afraid to make mistakes, so they wait and they just do so much research, but they never take action. And if you go to your local real estate meetups, you'll see these people. They're there every single month to these local real estate REIRs or these meetups, and they know so much. They've read all the books, listened to all the podcasts, but they never do anything. And if you've been sitting in a real estate meetup for a year or 2 years, you've never done a deal, then why the F are you there? What are you trying to achieve? There's never going to be this unicorn perfect deal, right? So a lot of inaction is another big problem I see. And people are just afraid to fail, but failure is inevitable, and just got to embrace it.
Good point. And for the people who are executing right now, what opportunities are you seeing in the next 12 to 24 months in the industry that you could share with us, or any tools or any trends around that?
Well, in this world, we never know what's going to happen, right? Interest rates rise and they drop down. COVID, the political climate. I mean, now we're in a war with Iran. I mean, in the last 5 years, it has been up, down, left, right. When you think about the economy and the market, if you think of like 2013 to 2020, it was pretty steady, slowing up and to the right. Now it's just like, I don't even know how to describe it, right? It's like a freaking roller coaster ride, just holding off for dear life. And it goes to show you that you really can't predict the future. But one thing that I do think that's going to happen is, over the next handful of years, is I think we're going to see more and more regulations come down when it comes to specifically wholesaling. We're seeing it now in many states, right? South Carolina, you're not even allowed to pre-market deals, and technically they're not even allowed to double close. Ohio just passed some laws. It's happening in many other states around the country. I think we're going to see more of that. I think there's a lot of people who, again, not doing wholesaling the right way, and they're just going out there and hurting a lot of people, and they don't know the ramifications and the realities of them not performing ethically or professionally. Not that they're malicious in nature. They just are just not doing things the right way. That has an effect on people. And it only takes a few bad apples to spoil the whole damn bunch. So you got that going on. And then you have the real estate agents, right? The National Association of Realtors, their numbers are down since the interest rates went up. And they know wholesaling is taking a lot of that business away from them. And they feel us wholesalers as a competitor, even though they're not. They're more of a collaborator. Again, people's mindset. So I think between those two things, we're going to see more and more states changing wholesaling and maybe even outlawing it altogether. Anybody listening, you do not want to be that person who's not taking action, right? Don't be a person of inaction. You really want to start learning how to acquire off-market deals as soon as possible, because it's going to take you a few years to really master it. And the sooner we can get started, the better, because once they do change these laws, and it may be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it may not happen at all. But if it does, for me, I hope it does, because I know how to go use other people's money. I don't need to wholesale anything. I can literally just buy everything I want to buy and turn it and put it right on the MLS. But it's taken me years to get to this point. So if they change wholesale here in New England and outright, great. 90% of my competition is gone tomorrow, right? And it's just me and a handful of other guys with an endless amount of deals. That is fantastic for me. But that could be the reality for a majority of us going forward. You almost have to be a cash buyer unless of a wholesale in the future. But you can't become a cash buyer at the scale that I'm doing unless you learn how to acquire off-market deals. So I think the sooner you learn that, the better.
And in talking about execution, if you had to, start today, as of today, in this industry, how would you start with nothing but your wisdom? And let's say I gave you $10,000 to $15,000 cash. What would be your step-by-step process?
Well, I love the fact you said the $10,000 to $15,000 cash, because I talk to people all the time. They say, I don't have $10 to $15, but I'm going to wholesale and be a millionaire. Like, I wish it was that easy, but it just isn't. But, $10,000 to $15,000, first thing I would do, I was invest in a mentor that was doing the business niche that I wanted to do, whether it was flipping, burning, wholesaling, off-market acquisitions, right? Make sure that I abide with that person, because it's one thing to invest into a mentor, but if you don't really connect with that mentor, then it may not be a good fit. So make sure that you find a mentor that's doing what you want to do and that you vibe with it first and foremost. Second thing I would do is once you get your LLC up and running, first of all, that mentor should tell you all the instruction, but then you need to set up marketing, and you need to set up marketing for 3 months, right? I always tell all my new students, with good coaching and good consistent marketing, you can expect to get your first deal based on averages within the first 3 to 4 months. That's when revenue will come in if you're a wholesale starting from zero. So I would make sure I have enough marketing to last for 3 months. I would make sure that I had a mentorship, and then I would make sure when those leads came in, I was working my ass off to get them, speed to leads, everything, right? When they come in, you're getting on the phone with them, you're qualifying them and going on appointments and just doing your best to lock up a deal. So that's typically what I would do. What marketing channels I would do is I would focus on outbound marketing channels such as text messaging, cold calling, direct mail, or pay-per-leads. I would not invest in PPC. I would not invest in TV or radio commercials, SEO. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You need to keep your cost per lead down until you start to become more experienced. So, but knowing that things like, direct mail, cold calling, and text messaging, the conversion cycles on those from when the lead comes into when they close on average are about 6 months. So in those first 3 to 4 months, you're just looking for that low-hanging fruit where you basically caught the person at the perfect time. That's going to be like 1 out of every 10 deals, maybe 2 out of every 10 deals you do. The rest are going to be deals you've been working on for many, many months with follow-ups. Now, if you're investing in PPL, which is a great way to start as well, don't be the highest bidder to start, work on the lower end things. It is a numbers game as well, but you'll typically see a conversion around, maybe around 120 days, 4 months on average, as opposed to 6 months. But at the end of the day, all those are numbers games. When it comes to texting, direct mail, cold call, depending on what market you're in, you may have to touch 10,000 properties in today's day and age before you get a deal closed, right? PPL would obviously be a lot less than that, but it's a high numbers game, and you've got to be ready to take that on. And that's why it's going to take a couple months. But as the leads come in every month and you have a good follow-up system, find yourself a year later, all of a sudden now you're closing those new deals that come in along with deals that are in your database and you've been working for a while. And that's when the momentum really starts to take you to another level.
I agree, man. It's a numbers game, it's a time game, and it's a follow-up game. Those are things that our investors are telling us help them scale and grow. But from your end, what would you say is one skill that investors should go all in if you had to choose one?
Well, I'll tell you, it's the easiest one you just mentioned is follow-up. Follow-up is everything in this business. When it comes to sales, and in our industry is no different. almost 50% of people never make one follow-up call. So if there's 10 people talking to one seller, almost 5 of them are not going to make a second call. So you making a follow-up call just once puts you ahead of almost half the competition. But here's another stat. Most deals, whether it's in sales in our industry, other industries, happen between the 7th and 12th touch, right? And that 7th and 12th touch can come in various ways: appointments, phone calls, texts, follow-ups, ringless voicemails, whatever. 7 to 12 touches. But only 1 out of 10 people will only make it to the 7th follow-up. So most deals happen between 7 and 12, but only 1 out of 10 people will make it to the 7th. So, we get deals all the time. We just locked up a deal that has been in our database for 3 years, and we're closing on it in 2 weeks. In 2022, we pulled out $500,000 in our database that year. And, that year, the new leads really slowed down with the market interest rates. Everything kind of froze, but we still end up doing well into the 7 figures. But a big part of that was because we did $500,000 out of our database. The average time of those deals in that 2022 year, from when the lead came in to when we closed on, was an average of 600 days. So that means those leads average, almost 2 years in our database. If we didn't have a follow-up system in place, we would have lost out on $500,000 that year. That's how important follow-up is. And you don't even need to be good. You just need to do it.
Man, I love the data that you're sharing with us today. It really puts everything into perspective. And like you're saying, it's a numbers game. And eventually, if you're doing the things that you're saying, what could go wrong? You know what I mean? So thank you for sharing that. And I know you're a coach, you're an inspiring person. Your story's awesome. Starting at 40, scaling the way you did. What's one piece of advice that you wish someone told you when you were starting off that you'd like to share with our investors? Or it could be anything, even a book or a resource that can help them, keep going strong and pushing.
Well, the one thing we all wish we did is we all wish we started sooner, right? No, we know now, but I'll leave the listeners with these 3 things, right? You always need to be learning. You always need to be marketing, and you always need to be taking action. If you do those 3 things consistently, great things will come from it.
Love that. And what's next for you and your business that you can share with us? And on a personal level, what's next for you so we can get to know more of you a little bit?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. From a business perspective, listen, retirement's not in the cards for me. I love working. I love what we do. I love real estate, and I love our business, even with the sleepless nights and headaches and the gut check moments that we still have. Nobody's inept from them, or exempt from them. But yeah, so I love what we do, and I'm going to continue to just get better, and I want to continue to grow our business and build our team a little bit more so we can have more revenue and build out different revenue streams from it as well, and continue buying more rentals. So from the business perspective, I got at least another 10 years before I maybe get out of it a little bit more. Personally, though, I'm building the business to allow me to just continue to just have time on my side, as I am 50. I am definitely on the down now. Time is limited, and our youngest just turned 16. We already have 4 kids out of the house, but 5 of us, 5 kids because we're a blended family. I'm really looking forward to this next chapter with my wife of traveling and building out our future. And really, it's just enjoying as much time as we can together while we're still young enough and healthy enough to enjoy it. So the next 20, 30 years is really just about building out a really fun lifestyle for me and my wife. We're very fit and active people. We want to continue to be that way. We want to travel a lot. We want to spend a lot of time with our kids and family. The building the business part is that goal. So I'm going to work hard on building my business so I can just spend a lot of time doing the things that I love with the people that I love.
I love that, Jeremy. Jeremy, I really appreciate you coming on, man. I think people are going to get a ton of value from this. For everyone that's watching and wants to learn more about you and connect with you and learn more about your coaching program, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, well, I'll leave you guys today with a free gift. If you go to reifreedom.com, REI for real estate investment freedom.com, reifreedom.com/gift. You can pull down a free ebook. It's our top 5 sales techniques for more deals, bigger deals with less cancellations, completely free. Read it implement it into your business right away, I guarantee you start doing more deals and bigger deals almost immediately. So that's a free gift. So iwoodifreedom.com/gift. Outside of that, you guys can find me all over the socials. If there's a social network out there, I think I'm on it. And Jeremy Beland, Beland, Jeremy Beland. I talk to people all the time. So if you really reach out to me and you have a question, shoot me a message. I will answer it. I will provide value to you. I love talking real estate, love helping others. This business has been a tremendous gift to my life, to myself, to my family. And I'm very passionate about allowing people to escape the rat race and the W-2s and the 9-to-5s to build a life of freedom like we have through real estate. So I'm happy to help any way I can.
Perfect. And for all the investors that got value from this, make sure to share this with another investor who needs to hear this. And thank you again for joining us today, Jeremy, on Investor 101.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.